You've probably heard a lot about SB10, but I think a lot of the information that people are getting out there is not very clear or accurate. People are imagining bulldozers coming for their houses like in that movie Up. I've seen special interest groups say that SB10 allows a 10-unit residential building on any property in transit-rich areas. That is not what the law does. What the bill does is much more boring than that. The law itself hasn't upzoned any lots in California. It's a law that says when a city chooses to increase the density on a lot, they face fewer regulatory hurdles. It's very focused on local control. And what's more, that local control already exists, right? Cities have been able to upzone lots if they want to. SB10 gives local government, like the city, the ability to upzone lots that are near mass transit to up to 10 units without triggering a CEQA review and a bunch of other regulatory stuff. That's the law. In the past, if a city wanted to upzone a lot near mass transit to say you could build up to 10 units here, it had to do a CEQA analysis, which is this environmental law that's been in place for decades in California. And that law allowed anybody to sue to delay the upzoning. And that has an effect of pushing upzoning back and back and back and back. The city just doesn't have a lot of control. Now, SB10 made it so that if the city wants to upzone something, they just upzone it. It's exempt from CEQA review. It just gives more power to cities. And hopefully that'll allow cities to do a better job, a more efficient job at the planning and zoning decisions that they've already been doing. That's what SB10's about. Now there's also a controversial bit. A lot of cities have local initiatives which limit development, density, or height. SB10 does allow a legislative body like a city council to upzone a piece of land in a way that supersedes that local initiative if it's a 2/3 majority vote. Now that part's controversial, but it's also not going to get used a lot, right? We're in Napa. Measure J, which was then reaffirmed with Measure P, is our agricultural preserve initiative. It passed, right? And it just got reconfirmed. A politician would take a lot of risk and court a lot of controversy in order to upzone some land in our ag preserve. That would cause a bit of a storm here. And so it's very unlikely to happen. On the other hand, you take Measure Y down in San Mateo, that squeaked by like 40 votes, a fraction of a percent of the number of people who voted. You're much more likely to see the city council take a stance against that. And it's not a repeal. It's not like the city council can undo the initiative. It's just that they can pick out individual lots that supersede the initiative's restrictions. My thoughts on this are that if a city does a good job creating sites for housing and those sites actually get developed, then they're not going to need to use SB10 in very controversial ways. Now, on the other hand, if a city is obstructive or does a bad job providing sites for housing and housing does not get developed, then years from now, when the city's preparing its next housing cycle, I would not be surprised if they have to use rules like SB10 to upzone things because they haven't done a good job in the past cycle. One of the big provisions in SB10 is that the lots have to be in transit-rich areas. So a mass transit center like this bus station is going to mean in a half-mile radius around here, the city can choose specific lots that it's going to upzone. Now, the city's not going to put out a blanket policy that says all the lots. They're probably going to pick and choose lots that they think would be good for development. And that's how SB10 is going to work. It's going to be limited to areas that are close to transit. It's going to be a case-by-case approach that the city chooses to take lots and upzone them. What it is not is a blanket approach at the state level. It is a local control approach. In my opinion, SB10 is going to be a slow burn, right? You're not going to see a big wave of development happen on January 1st. It's going to take time for cities to use it, to upzone individual lots. It's going to be case by case, city by city, and you just got to keep an eye on the zoning updates if you're worried about that. If you're a developer looking for opportunities to develop land with SB10, pay attention to those zoning updates. Subscribe to channels like this one. Now, you can binge watch some of the most frequently asked questions. They're real short videos, so it's easy to blast through them. Or if you're ready to build in your own backyard with laws like SB9 or the ADU rules, check that out. I want to build more housing in California, and I want to do it in a responsible way that doesn't make people panic. So, thanks for watching.